Welcome to Canadian Real Estate Channel News. I am Peter, the producer. In today's stories, a latest Better Dwelling article states that Canadian real estate markets are up to 76% overvalued. Over the past 2 years, home prices have climbed 38% above trend, which Canada hasn't seen in at least the past 40 years. More on this story later. Our second story of the day, paying with a credit card? Expect to see a fee when you shop under new rules that started last week. As part of their card agreement, merchants were forbidden from passing on a surcharge fee to consumers, but that all changed when Visa, MasterCard, and other card providers settled a long-running lawsuit on the issue in Canada. How will this affect Canadian real estate as a whole? More on this story later. And lastly, has the Landlord Tenant Board collapsed? A backlog of cases at the province's Landlord and Tenant Board is creating hardship for tens of thousands of Ontarians who are having to wait more than a year and a half to settle a dispute. How do we fix our collapsed Landlord-Tenant Board here in Ontario, and what do you have to say on this issue? All this and more in today's episode. Welcome, Peter the producer here, aka the Hungarian experiment with Canadian Real Estate Channel News. Before we begin on today's news stories, is Matt McKeever making a return to the Canadian Real Estate Channel? In a recent Instagram story, Matt McKeever stated, "Starting next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, I'll be returning to YouTube and talking real estate. Looking to start a roundtable discussion on Canadian real estate, who should be my first guest to join me?" Wow. After a surprising year and a half hiatus from the Canadian Real Estate Channel, it appears as if Matt McKeever will be making his return. If you're excited to have Matt McKeever back on the channel, leave some support in the comment section below and make sure to join him live this upcoming Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern for a roundtable discussion with some guests you may just recognize. Now, on to our first story. A latest Better Dwelling article states that Canadian real estate markets are up to 76% overvalued, correction through 2023 by BMO. Canadian real estate prices are plummeting, but have a long way to go before the froth dissipates. BMO warned investors over the long weekend that home prices deviated from the trend by up to 76% in Q1 2022. Home prices historically only add a small premium to real wage growth and interest rates. However, Canada is currently seeing the widest deviation in the past 40 years. The bank expects a significant correction through 2023. Canadian real estate has made an unusual deviation from the trend, making it clear this has been a bubble. Since 1980, BMO estimates home prices have increased 3% per year in real terms. The bank says this roughly reflects real inflation-adjusted wage growth and interest rates that changed recently. Over the past 2 years, home prices have climbed 38% above trend, noted the bank to investors. Prices have jumped over a third in the past 2 years, going way past the baseline trend. Deviations from the trend are better known as overvaluation and tend not to stick around too long. Canada has never seen such a large gap above the trend, at least in the past 40 years. It's a national bubble, but Southern Ontario is the worst. The bank warns most of the country has seen frothy gains, with a few exceptions. However, Ontario is pushed to an extreme, with home prices 55.4% higher above the trend as of Q1 2022. It's worse in Southern Ontario, with Toronto plus 41% and its exurbs 1 to 2 hours away rising 76.3% overvalued. Cottage Country plus 63.6% has also gotten ahead of itself and won't have fun discovering where its true value should be. While Toronto prices were 41% above trend, exurbs, using markets 1 to 2 hours outside Toronto, were ahead by more than 70%, warns the bank. Other regions also have steep trend deviations, including Atlantic Canada at 34.7%, Quebec at 32.6%, and BC at 21.4%. Those might not look huge in contrast to Ontario, but if normalization were to occur and a third of price gains were trimmed, you probably wouldn't be too happy. A Canadian price correction is already underway. It's hard to find someone that hasn't noticed this recently, but Canadian real estate prices are doing the unthinkable, falling. Home prices are down 8% from the February peak, with many local markets down even further. BMO explained to investors, a price correction in Canadian housing is well underway, and many local markets are easily already down 20%. We expect the adjustment to run through most of 2023 as the market absorbs the sharp increase in borrowing costs, while a broader economic slowdown also weighs on previously raging demand. So here at the Canadian Real Estate Channel and with Canadian Real Estate Channel News, our goal is to not be opinionated here. We're just here to deliver you the facts and the articles that are being displayed by the mainstream media. So that way you guys don't have to expose yourself to all the other fear porn that's going on out there. But today, let's take a quick look at what some people are saying in the comments section here. We have Carmen here, who you'll actually see on the YouTube channel coming up in the next few weeks. Excellent time to buy. And what about our housing crisis? Zach John Britton, who you'll know as our Waterloo realtor investor expert on the channel, says, legit still a housing crisis. No supply, no shot values fall that far without a massive dump of supply, which Canada has proven it's not capable of. Geoff Malaysia says, these articles are whack. Manitoba Homes says, this article is fear-mongering with its blanket approach to real estate across the country. I'd like to know what you guys think. Do you think this article is fear-mongering, or are they speaking the truth and facts in this? Matthew K. Porter says, considering I bought for $300K in 2017 and it's $600K now, yes, it's overvalued. K&W Property says, I wonder if they factored in crazy immigration and demand into this. Blair Ski 007 says, when you have something that is desirable, homes, harder to obtain, rate hikes, mortgage qualifications, etc., it only increases its price. It hurts first-timers the most. Need way more supply in order to truly fix this. People can't afford homes now, not because of their price, but because of the payment/rate. It's just a shell game. We won't cover any more of the comments there, but again, we'd love to know what you guys think. So make sure you're sharing your comments in the description box below. And if you're not already, make sure to follow us on Instagram, where you can stay up to date on the latest news articles that we're sharing from these mainstream media sources, and join the discussion there on Instagram. But for now, let's have a quick word from our sponsors.
WealthGenius.
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 Yeah.
It's amazing. I think it's wonderful.
Incredible.
It has been a life-changing experience.
The energy in the room is absolutely amazing.
The entire ambience is just incredible.
There's a lot of integrity.
People are here to make other people better.
Connecting with everybody has been an absolute dream.
It's not even just a community, it feels like a family.
They're very focused on bringing people together and bringing minds together to create something that's bigger.
You can really feel the personalization.
The coaching is invaluable.
And it just has allowed me to scale my business 10 times.
My growth curve went from this to this.
WealthGenius has allowed me to get into my first commercial multifamily property.
I'm getting training and mentorship. It's not just me trying to figure it out on my own like it has been for so long before.
I absolutely love it, and there's no going back after this.
It's a no-brainer. It's something that you really need to do if you want to invest in multifamilies.
If you're considering joining WealthGenius, do it.
You should have already joined.
Yeah.
Welcome back. For our second story, paying with a credit card, expect to see a fee when you shop under new rules that start now. Following a class action lawsuit settlement earlier this year, merchants and other businesses in Canada are not allowed to levy a surcharge on customers who make purchases with a credit card. Merchants had been forbidden from passing on the cost of doing business with card providers, Daniel Acker from Bloomberg. With record high inflation, Canadian shoppers are well aware that the cost of just about everything is going up. But they can soon expect to see a new demand for their dollars when they shop, because starting Thursday, retailers and other businesses will be allowed to charge them a fee every time they swipe their credit card once notice is provided to credit card companies. With record high inflation, Canadian shoppers are well aware that the cost of just about everything is going up. But they can soon expect to see a new demand for their dollars when they shop, because starting Thursday, retailers and other businesses will be allowed to charge them a fee every time they swipe their credit card once notice is provided to card companies. And if you guys are aware, this was made last Thursday. While consumers love the convenience and rewards of paying with credit cards, they have raised the ire of retailers for years because as part of the original card agreements, stores had to give a percentage of every sale to the card providers for making that transaction happen. The fee can range from fractions of a percent to more than 2% for premium cards. We won't dive too much deeper into this article. You might already be aware that this surcharge has been going on, but today we want to ask and pose the question to you guys here in this video, as well as to our followers on Instagram. How do you think this is going to affect Canadian real estate as a whole? Is this going to change how you utilize credit? How will this affect working with contractors on renovation projects? Will this change how you're budgeting and doing analysis on properties? We'd love to know, so make sure you leave a comment in the comment section below with your answers to these questions. But for now, let's dive into what some of our friends on Instagram are saying. Delium777 says, is that why places are now not accepting cash? We are living in crazy times. Spencer Wasn't Here says, cash is king. Ontario Landlord Help states, can't wait to pay delivery app surcharge, delivery fee, service fee, 13% tax, 4% visa surcharge, and to be asked to tip 25%. The Buzz Conference says, insanity. We have seen it also, up to 4.5% service charges. Dominic Battaglia, I hope I said that right, says, use debit, service charge. Use credit, service charge. Try to use cash, bank questions while you're withdrawing. Elizabeth Katrina 07 says, I'm most just annoyed that I won't be accumulating as many travel points by putting everything on my visa. We'd love to know what you guys think, so leave your comments in the comment section below. How is this going to affect you as a real estate investor here in Canada? But for now, another quick word from our sponsors.
I find that a lot of brokers are in it for the money, rightfully so. However, Josh, I felt, was really trying to help me out. There's a reason why I'm here. Josh did a killer job. Definitely helped me out through the process, held my hand throughout it, and he gave me a very clear outline as to what the goals are. I would definitely recommend the Findlay team. Regardless of where you are in your investing journey, if it's your first house, if it's your second, if it's your fifth, if it's your 100th, I see at all levels how Josh was able to help me out. And Josh, I can feel that he's on my side.
I was like looking to do something creative. I saw a lot of content about, creative financing, and then I went to my mortgage broker. How do I do this? And he's like, no, that's not possible. We can't do it. I reached out to Stanley. I'm like, okay, I want to get this done.
Call my guy.
Yeah. So he put me in contact with Aaron, and like the first deal that we did together, it worked out exactly how you said it was going to work out. And that was just amazing. It was like really refreshing. And since then, like, you're the only person I'll use.
Welcome back. I'm Peter, the producer with Canadian Real Estate Channel News. Before we dive into our last story of the day, have you been staying up to date on our latest videos on the Canadian Real Estate Channel? Yesterday, we actually just dropped an in-depth 25-minute interview with Andrew Hines of the Andrew Hines podcast and Zach Britton, our local Waterloo realtor investor expert, where they dive deep into Andrew Hines's campground and RV park that he recently bought near Tobermory, Ontario. If you're interested in learning and understanding the full buying process and the financing process and how Andrew Hines and his business partners are going to be scaling this property with unique glamping and Airbnb, highly recommend this video. Great deep dive into what it's like to buy, own, and finance an RV and campground in Canada. Along with that, we recently just dropped a video with Hart Togman, CEO and founder of Rent Panda, and Adam J.D. Martin, local real estate investor and host of the Canadian Real Estate Channel, where they break down and discuss the lessons that Hart has learned by screening over 25,000 tenants for his Rent Panda platform, and how he's also interviewed over 3,000 landlords. There's some great lessons that are broken down here. If you're going through some tenant screening, I highly recommend this video. And then along with that, if you're looking for real estate investment opportunities in Southwestern Ontario, I highly recommend checking out our latest Hamilton, Ontario real estate market update with our local realtor investor expert from the area, Abdullah Maj. He dives deep into the stats and the analytics of the region, and he also shares some off-market opportunities that he has with his team. So make sure to go check out that video. But on to our latest story of the day. Ontario Landlord and Tenant Board has collapsed, landlord says. A backlog of cases at the province's Landlord and Tenant Board is creating hardships for tens of thousands of Ontarians who are having to wait more than a year and a half to settle a dispute. During the pandemic, the province paused evictions and hearings for months at a time, causing stoppages in the board's work that many now see as the origins of the current delays. The board says it strives to give a hearing within 25 days, but the latest update from the summer indicates the average wait is now 8 months. Both tenants who face harassment or problems with the space they rent and small landlords who increasingly say they have tenants who take advantage of the delays at the board have been affected. Landlord Cyan Twang, who arrived in Canada as a refugee from Myanmar in 2008, said the wait to settle this dispute has been very stressful. I never expected this, he says. After working and learning, building skills, the father of 4 bought a small home in Smiths Falls, Ontario, with plans to flip it himself. He then found tenants who could move in December 2021 and help finish the basement, which was cheaper than other options. In exchange, he told them they could live in the home for free for the first 3 months. They have neither finished the work nor paid Tang any rent, he said, but they continue to live in the home and allegedly told him he can't do anything to collect the money. The situation is much the same for federal public servant Ali Labano, who rented his home in the Ottawa suburb of Barhaven to a family of 4 in July 2021. 4 months later, they said they couldn't afford the monthly rent of $2,600, so he lowered the rate by $400. Labano said the family then told him in March there were cockroaches and rats in the home and that they had decided not to pay the rent. Labano has joined the long list of small landlords seeking a resolution with the board, according to Tony Miller, who founded the Ottawa Small Landlord Association. The financial consequences are tough on small landlords, he said, since they are powerless with backlogs at the board. To be frank, the board has collapsed, Miller said. Last week, Ottawa Vanier Liberal MPP Lucille Collard tweeted about the overwhelmed process and said the board needs to be overhauled. Justice delayed is access denied, Collard said, adding that delays are worsening the current housing crisis. Collard pointed out that the delays negatively affect tenants and landlords, but politicians have been reluctant to weigh in on the matter because they're worried they could seem unsympathetic to renters. Here at the Canadian Real Estate, we want to know, with our politicians being reluctant to weigh in on the matter due to their concerns with seeming unsympathetic to renters, how do we fix our collapsed landlord tenant board here in Ontario? We would love to know your thoughts. Let's take a look at what some of the thoughts from our followers on Instagram are saying. Mosin Shiba says, too real, thanks for sharing. Britain North says, this kind of stuff is why I don't invest in Canadian real estate. Anthony Nova says, politicians shouldn't be getting involved with this issue. What do you guys think? Should politicians be involved in this? Matthew McLean says, next article, hitman jobs on the rise. Crompton Elite REI says, more reason than ever to lease your rental property to a reputable arbitrage company instead. Just saying. Civil Society 905, the government wants privately subsidized public housing so they don't have to fix the housing issue. Marco Suraraburu says, by design. Ontario Landlord Watch says the N4L1 and N12L2 applications need to be removed from the LTB. Fadi Otaki says, let the rent go up. Landlord weed through them. Ask for the moon, and better yet, invest in Alberta and Saskatchewan. The LTB is nothing but a tenant advocacy hiding in sheep's clothing. We want to know what you guys think. But before we wrap up the show here for today, I highly recommend checking out a recent roundtable panel that we did with Kayla Andrade, the head and founder of Ontario Landlords Watch. She just recently did a roundtable panel with Melissa Dupuis, Lucy Herman, and Felix at Cloud9 Life about why the Landlord Tenant Board is crashing well before this article came out. We're going to play a little snippet here, and if you guys are interested, the video can be found in the description box below, but highly recommend checking this out. These are the types of videos, these are the types of discussions we want to be hosting and having here on the Canadian Real Estate channel, and this is the stuff that our politicians should be looking at because, again, not trying to be opinionated here, but I think we're seeing from the comments that it is definitely more favored to the tenant, and no one's listening to the people who are boots on the ground, who are actually part of this, doing this on a day-by-day basis. Politicians are coming in, and they don't want to seem unsympathetic. So who do they listen to? Who do they get their advice from? How are we actually going to fix this broken landlord-tenant board? I think this is a great discussion that needs to be watched. And if you have the opportunity and if you're interested, I highly recommend sending this to your local MPP or your local politician to show them what's actually going on and actually hear from the side of people who are providing housing for Canadians during this housing crisis. Let's get into this video.
One's like poor tenants, and not all tenants are poor, and not all landlords are rich. So we have to stop painting this brush and knowing that the landlords and the tenants need to be going to the government together and saying, listen, we have a broken system. We need to fix this broken system, because what's happening is that we're losing supply. You want to gain some, but you're not focusing on what you're losing. It's great to say, yes, you know, we just got 15,000 rental units, but if you're losing 10, that is obviously not, that's not a win, but they want to appear it to be a win because they're playing party politics in the housing industry. Melissa, what would be the your most gut-wrenching experience at the Landlord and Tenant Board yourself?
Most gut-wrenching experience. Honestly, it's anyone where you feel helpless. My last time I had to go through, we were granted an expedited hearing on the basis of one tenant threatening another and harassing them, and it still took 7 months end to end to get this tenant out. And I recall the hearings with this adjudicator who the hearings were quite lengthy, and they said, you know, I said, I want an expedited order for this tenant to leave. And this tenant was an older disabled lady who seemed to have some issues, but I had reached out, I had tried everything I could do to help her. And I said, look, I said, I want this eviction order. This was a last resort. We've done everything else. My other tenants need relief. That is an awful feeling as a landlord, to have to evict someone from their home, somewhere affordable that they lived for years and the community that they live in. You know, I feel very strongly about the tenants that live in the properties that we manage and the properties that we own, and about taking care of things. But the bad ones, they make it just awful. And that to me really truly is gut-wrenching. And that hearing was before things got as bad as they are now. So that was about a year ago that happened. Now I have one of the properties we manage, we have a tenant who definitely has some clear mental health issues. We have the worst cockroach infestation there that the exterminator has ever seen. We had to go in, we had to clear it out. We've had multiple treatments. At one point we observed, not only did it remove the smoke detector, but there was a shotgun sitting in the corner of the apartment, and staff were scared to even knock on the door. We called the Navigational Police. God bless them, they took it seriously. They went, they seized the weapon. What are we going to do about this? You know what the situation is right now? He wants us to pay him to actually leave that apartment to go be somewhere where he gets the support that he needs. How is that okay? How is that okay for the other people that live in this building? How is that okay for the people that have to manage it? How is that okay for the landlords that have to? But the reality is that we could be a year away from a hearing. What choice are we left with? We're left with enabling bad behavior from people who need help that we can't and shouldn't have to provide to them, quite frankly. And it's an awful system. It's really hard. It makes it hard on, you know, everybody that's involved with it. To me, that's what's gut-wrenching about this. I mean, evicting people from their homes is not the business that we're in. It's the last resort and the end result of a situation we've already tried everything else to work through. It's just not a good place to be.
And this is where you kind of analyze how the Landlord and Tenant Board deals with, let's say you have a non-payment of rent, you also have, you know, the engagement, ruining the enjoyment or illegal acts, safety, whatever the case may be. Maybe you want to even throw in that you're now going to be taken over for your own personal use. They always tend to schedule these hearings one at a time. So the same tenant, but it's a different day for a different hearing for a different application. They don't combine the applications together unless you request it. And if you do request it, then what happens is that it now stretches out that availability of where you're going to be put in. So it actually can take longer by trying to combine them. All applications on one tenant should be combined together, but the evidence should be sent in with those type of applications. So it gives the adjudicator time to go through each and every application, look at the situation as a whole, not just based on certain type of applications in play, and be able to handle it in a matter of, okay, landlord has 10 minutes, the tenant has 10 minutes, questions from the adjudicator, and then have your conclusion. The way that they drag out all these hearings as well is what's obviously taking a valuable time from these adjudicators, and is obviously pushing off hearings that are scheduled for that day for another day, in which Lucy's client had fell through the cracks, and they obviously forgot about it. there's no process in place in order for them to keep on track of the ones that are expedited, the new ones that are coming in, ones that have been waited while the board was gone. There was applications that were lost, and they're telling people if you had a
well, we're not going to dive into that whole video here. Again, highly recommend going to check out that video. On this panel discussion, they break down a bunch of potential recommendations and potential solutions that could actually help fix the broken landlord-tenant board. So we want to know what you guys think. Go check out that full video. Make sure you go check it out and leave some comments down below if you support and believe in what's going on in regards to the broken landlord-tenant board. But that is going to be it for today on the Canadian Real Estate Channel News. If you guys enjoyed this, again, we need to know if you guys are enjoying and getting value from this. So please leave some comments in the comment section below. We are beta testing this for the rest of this year, doing this as a weekly Canadian Real Estate Channel News show. But we need your support. We need to know if you guys like this, if you guys want to see more, how we can improve this, what you'd like to see that we can do better here. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Peter, the producer, aka the Hungarian experiment with Canadian Real Estate Channel News. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook to stay up to date on our latest articles and our latest videos, and we'll see you in the next video.